The billionaire CEO never smiled until he heard the new assistant talking to herself about impossible dreams. Before we start the story, leave in the comments what city you're watching from, and at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story, everyone. Harper Lewis didn't trip. She starred in a slow-motion catastrophe that deserved a dramatic soundtrack and documentary narration. First, her heel got stuck in a crack in the marble floor. Then, her body went forward while her feet stayed behind. And then, as if the universe had paused just to appreciate the moment, 47 pages of the quarterly report exploded in every direction like paper fireworks. One sheet landed on the head of a passing executive. Another landed inside a suited man's coffee. A third, particularly adventurous, glided elegantly to the reception desk and fell exactly on top of the receptionist's badge, as if asking to be identified. Harper froze in the middle of the lobby, arms spread, mouth forming a perfect O. "Okay," she murmured. "It's fine. This happens. This happens to normal people on normal days. Completely normal." She threw herself on the marble floor. "Who am I kidding? This doesn't happen to normal people. This happens to me. Only me. I'm a disaster magnet. I should come with a hazard warning." The executive removed the paper from her own head and looked down. Harper lifted her eyes from the floor and gave her best smile. "Good morning. Nice hair. It matches the paper." The woman walked away without saying anything. "Great start, Harper," she grumbled, crawling after the reports. "First day of work and you're already making friends. Your mother would be proud." "Actually, no. Your mother would say, 'I told you that you should have married the butcher's son. At least you'd have a discount on meat and wouldn't be on all fours on a company floor.'" She grabbed 5 sheets at once. She crumpled 3. "Wonderful. Now besides clumsy, I'm destructive. It's a combo. Clumsy and destructive. Should put that on my resume. Special skills, turning important documents into papier-mâché." The man with the contaminated coffee stared at his cup as if he'd lost a relative. "I'm sorry," Harper shouted from the floor. "Page 12 is pretty interesting, if that helps. It has some nice charts." The man turned and walked away in silence. "Doesn't help. Got it. Nobody wants to know about the nice charts." 53 floors above, Trevor Langford watched everything. His office had 6 monitors. 5 showed data that would give normal people an instant headache. The 6th showed the building's lobby in high definition. In the lobby, a brown-haired woman, now with a sheet stuck to her skirt without her noticing, talked to herself as if she were recording a podcast about her own failure. Trevor didn't move a facial muscle. This wasn't news. Trevor never moved his facial muscles. The employees at Langford Industries had a theory that he was born that way. Already in a suit, already serious, probably already arranging his crib toys by size and color. There was a game at the office. It was called Hunters of the Lost Smile. Simple rule. Whoever made the CEO smile would get $100 from each participant. It had existed for 3 years. Accumulated prize, $12,300. Winners to date, 0. Marcus from finance had tried to tell a joke. Trevor blinked once and asked if he'd finished the report. Jennifer from marketing had brought a puppy to the office. Trevor looked at the animal for exactly 2 seconds and said that dogs weren't allowed in the Code of Conduct, Section 4, Paragraph 8. Timothy from IT had shown a video of a cat scared by a toy. Trevor asked why anyone would film that instead of working. Legend said that Trevor Langford had smiled once in 2019 when he closed a $200 million deal. But the only witness was an intern who was later transferred, so nobody could confirm. On the monitor, Harper had managed to gather half the papers. The other half was scattered within a 3-meter radius, and she seemed to be waging a personal battle with each sheet. "Come here," she whispered to a report that had slipped under a bench. "Come here, you scoundrel. I saw you running away. You think you can beat me? I created you. I printed you. It's the same thing." Trevor picked up a pen and placed it perpendicular to the edge of the desk. Then he picked up the second pen and aligned it beside it. Then the third. On the monitor, Harper finally reached the rebel paper, but when she pulled, she hit her head on the bench. "Ow!" She rubbed the top of her head. "Okay, now it's personal. Now it's personal between me and this bench, and this company, and this day, and probably this entire city. Pittsburgh, you're on my list." Trevor moved the pen holder 2 millimeters to the left, then moved it back. It was 1 millimeter off now. He could feel it. In the lobby, Harper finally stood up. The pile of papers in her arms looked like a modern sculpture on the theme of organized chaos. Some sheets were upside down, others were crumpled at the edges. One had a shoe print. Okay, she took a deep breath. First phase complete. Now I just have to get to the elevator, go up 53 floors, find the CEO's office, and pretend none of this happened. Easy. Super easy. You can do this. She took 3 steps. The security guard at the entrance waved at her. Excuse me, miss. Your badge. Harper looked down. The badge was upside down, and the photo looked like an alternate version of her from a universe where combing your hair wasn't an option. Oh yes, sorry. She tried to turn the badge with one hand while holding the papers with the other. 3 sheets escaped. No, stay. She tried to catch them in the air and lost 5 more. Why do you do this to me? We're a team. Teams don't separate. The security guard watched her with the expression of someone watching a fire in slow motion. Need help? No. I have everything under control. Completely under control. This right here is control. This is what control looks like. She was crouched on the floor again, trying to gather papers with her chin holding the original pile. You know what my impossible dream is? She murmured to absolutely no one. Not to embarrass myself in public every single day. That's it. Just one day. A single day where I don't do something that makes me want to dig a hole and live inside it. Is that asking too much? The universe thinks it's asking too much. The universe hates me. The universe woke up today and said, you know who we haven't humiliated yet this week? Harper. Let's destroy Harper. The security guard took a step back. Miss, are you okay? I'm great. Harper stood up with the crooked pile. I'm living the dream. The dream of someone who has very specific nightmares about work situations, but still, a dream. In the office on the 53rd floor, Trevor Langford had aligned all the pens, and all the picture frames, and the stapler. And now he was looking at his own fingers, which were drumming on the desk in a way that wasn't symmetrical. And this bothered him in a way he couldn't explain. On the monitor, Harper was standing in front of the elevators. She looked at the panel as if it were an advanced math puzzle. 53 floors, she said to the elevator button. 53? Who needs an office on the 53rd floor? This isn't an office. This is a message. This is the man saying, look how far I am from you inferior mortal beings. This is a monument to ego. She pressed the button. Nothing happened. She pressed again. Come on, elevator. I know you're there. I hear you thinking. An executive approached and pressed the button once. The elevator arrived immediately. Of course, Harper murmured. Of course it obeys her. She looks like someone who's never dropped a report in her life. She's probably never dropped anything. She probably makes objects float by willpower. They entered the elevator together. The executive pressed floor 30. Harper looked at the panel. 53 buttons glowing. The last one up there? Almost unreachable. She stretched her arm. The papers tilted dangerously. No, stay there. We already talked about this. Team, remember? We're a team. She managed to press 53, but 3 sheets escaped in the process. The executive looked at the elevator floor, now decorated with financial data, and then looked at Harper. Harper smiled. Modern art? I'm an artist. The executive didn't respond. The elevator began to rise. You know, Harper said to no one in particular, my grandmother always said I'd end up in a high place. She meant professional success, but technically this counts. Technically I'm going up. Literally going up. 53 floors of going up. If this isn't progress, I don't know what is. The executive got off on the 30th floor without saying a word. The doors closed. Harper was alone. Okay, elevator, just you and me now. Let's make a deal. You take me up there without getting stuck, without shaking, without making strange sounds, and I promise never to talk badly about you again. Deal? Deal? Great. Deal closed. We're in sync. The elevator made a strange sound. That wasn't part of the deal. On the 53rd floor, Trevor turned off the monitor. He needed to prepare. He needed to organize his thoughts, align expectations, create an appropriate communication strategy to receive the new temporary assistant. He picked up the pen holder, moved it 2 millimeters to the right. No, wrong, moved it to the left. Worse. What was happening to him? The intercom rang. Mr. Langford, Miss Lewis is on her way up. Trevor looked at his perfectly organized desk, at his perfectly aligned monitors, at his perfectly controlled life. And for the first time in years, he felt something he couldn't align. A strange sensation, a tremor at the corner of his mouth, a microscopic crack in his concrete expression. He pressed his lips together hard. No, this wasn't going to happen. He was Trevor Langford, the CEO who didn't smile, the man who had turned efficiency into an art form, the billionaire who made other billionaires look disorganized. He wasn't going to smile because of a woman who talked to elevators. He wasn't, no way. The elevator went ding in the hallway. Trevor aligned his fingers on the desk. The office door opened, and Harper Lewis walked in, with her crooked pile of papers, a sheet stuck in her hair that she hadn't noticed, and a smile of someone who was about to apologize for something that hadn't happened yet, but certainly would happen. "Good morning. I'm Harper, your new assistant. And before you ask, yes, I know there's a paper in my hair. No, I don't know how it got there. And yes, I accept that this probably defines our professional relationship from here on out." Trevor looked at her, at the paper in her hair, at the crooked pile, at the nervous smile, and the corner of his mouth, for the first time in 3 years, trembled. Just trembled. Nothing more. But in Trevor Langford's world, that was practically an earthquake. The paper was still in her hair. Trevor stared at that piece of financial report hanging from the brown strands as if it were a work of art he couldn't decipher. Harper kept smiling, completely unaware that she was carrying accounting documentation on her head. "So," she said, adjusting the crooked pile in her arms, "where do I sit?" Trevor pointed to the desk next to his office door, a perfectly organized desk with a perfectly aligned computer and a perfectly positioned chair. Harper looked at the desk, looked at Trevor, looked at the desk again. "This is a joke, right?" "No. I'm going to sit there, right there, next to your door, like there? Yes, where you can see me all the time. That's the function of an assistant." Harper let out a nervous laugh that sounded like a choking bird. Of course. Makes total sense. Why wouldn't the assistant sit right there, 3 meters from the boss, in absolute silence, without making any noise, like a normal person who definitely never talks to herself ever? Trevor raised an eyebrow. It was a microscopic movement, maybe 2 millimeters of elevation, but by his standards, it was practically an explosion of emotion. Harper felt sweat drip down her neck. "I'm going to sit now. I'm going to sit and be professional. Very professional, the most professional of assistants who ever assisted things, people, work, by." She spun and marched to the desk. The pile of papers swayed dangerously. "Don't even think about it," she whispered to the reports. "We already had this conversation." Trevor went back to his office. The door stayed open. Of course it did. The first 15 minutes were absolute silence. Harper organized the crumpled papers, turned on the computer, discovered she didn't have the password, stared at the login screen as if she could unlock it with willpower. "Okay," she murmured quietly. "You can do this. Just ask for the password." A simple sentence. "Mr. Langford, what's the password?" 6 words. "You know how to talk. You talk all the time. That's literally your problem." She peeked at the open door. Trevor was sitting at his desk, typing something. His posture was so perfect it looked drawn with a ruler. Straight shoulders, straight spine. Probably had straight thoughts, too. "He looks like a robot," Harper whispered to herself. "A very expensive robot, like those from science fiction movies. I wonder if he was programmed? I wonder if someone pressed a button and he just was born in a suit." She didn't realize her voice had risen. She also didn't realize the office acoustics were impeccable. And she definitely didn't realize that Trevor had stopped typing. "Must be exhausting," she continued, spinning a pen between her fingers. "Being perfect like that. Waking up, putting on the perfect suit, making the perfect face, sitting in the perfect chair. There can't be energy left for anything else. That's why he doesn't smile. Smiling uses energy. Energy that he uses to be this." Trevor looked at the pen on his own desk. It was 3 millimeters out of place. He moved it. "And the office?" Harper continued her unconscious monologue. "This place looks like a luxury furniture hospital. Everything matches. Nothing has color. I bet if I put a flower here, the entire building would collapse. A yellow flower, just to see the chaos." Trevor moved the stapler. It wasn't crooked, but now it was straighter. "But you know what's strange?" Harper tilted her head, still looking at the login screen. He's kind of handsome, in a scary way, like a museum statue that you admire but don't want to touch because it probably has an alarm. A beautiful and expensive robot. That's it. That's exactly it. The sound of something falling broke the silence. Harper looked at the door. Trevor was crouched down, picking up 3 pens that had mysteriously jumped from the pen holder. "Everything okay there?" she asked. "Yes." "Did the pens attack you?" Trevor paused. "They fell. By themselves? It happens. Pens fall by themselves from the pen holder? Sometimes." Harper nodded slowly. "Cool. Great. Rebel pens. Another danger in this office. I'll add it to the list." Trevor sat back down. His ears were slightly red. Harper didn't notice. Half an hour later, she still didn't have the password. She also didn't have the courage to ask. "You're going to get fired," she murmured to the keyboard. "First day, and you're going to get fired for not being able to log in. Your mother will love this story. How was the new job, dear?" "Great, Mom. I stared at a login screen for 3 hours and then got sent home." She sighed. "You know what the problem is, keyboard? I don't even know his name. I mean, I know, Langford. But the first name? Nobody told me, and I can't ask now because too much time has passed. If I ask now, he'll know I don't know. And if he knows I don't know, he'll think I'm incompetent. Which I am. But he doesn't need to know that so soon." Trevor's chair creaked. Harper froze. Did he hear? No, he didn't hear. I was whispering. I always whisper. It's practically my specialty. "Trevor?" The voice came from the office doorway. Harper turned so fast she almost fell off the chair. Trevor was standing there holding a paper with the expression of someone who had no expression. "What?" "My name, Trevor." Harper felt her face catching fire. I didn't ask. You were talking about not knowing. I was whispering. You weren't. I'm sure I was. You weren't. Harper opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "How much did you hear?" Trevor tilted his head slightly. "Enough. Enough like the keyboard part or the beautiful and expensive robot part." The floor could open now. Harper wouldn't mind. She'd even be grateful. That was a professional observation. A professional observation. About posture, ergonomics, office things. You compared me to a museum statue with an alarm. In a good way. Trevor stayed silent. The silence lasted approximately 1,000 years. Then he placed the paper on her desk. "The password is TRL2019. The protocol system is in the blue folder." "And Harper?" She swallowed hard. "Yes? You don't speak quietly." He went back to his office. The door stayed open. Harper sank into her chair. "I'm going to get fired before lunch," she groaned. Then she looked at the door and noticed something strange. On Trevor's desk, visible through the opening, 6 pens were now perfectly aligned in order of size. Next to them, 3 notepads formed a precise staircase, and the picture frames, empty, she noticed, were positioned at mathematically identical angles. He had reorganized everything. Everything. In the last 30 minutes, while she talked to herself, Trevor Langford had silently aligned every object on his desk as if his life depended on it. Harper frowned. "Interesting," she whispered. Then covered her mouth. Looked at the door. Trevor didn't move. She typed the password. The screen unlocked, and in the monitor's reflection, Harper finally saw the paper still hanging in her hair. Harper pulled the paper from her hair in the bathroom and swore to the mirror that she would never talk to herself again. The promise lasted exactly 11 minutes. Now she was in the executive floor break room, waging a personal battle against a coffee machine that seemed to have been manufactured during the Industrial Revolution and never updated since. "Okay," she whispered, pressing random buttons. "You're a machine. I'm a human being. Theoretically, I should be smarter. Theoretically." The machine made a noise that sounded like an angry cat. Was that a yes or a no? Another noise. This time, it sounded like a train braking. "I'll interpret that as maybe." She pressed the green button. Nothing happened. "Please," she tried. "I said please. That should count for something." The machine remained in hostile silence. Harper leaned forward, staring at the panel as if she could intimidate it. "Listen here, you old tin can. I've had a difficult morning. I dropped reports. I called my boss a beautiful and expensive robot to his face. I just need a coffee. One. Coffee? Is that asking too much?" She doesn't respond to threats. Harper jumped so high she hit her elbow on the counter. Trevor was standing at the break room entrance, holding an empty mug with the same expression as always. Meaning, none. I wasn't threatening. Harper rubbed her elbow. I was negotiating. You called her an old tin can. It was a term of endearment. Trevor approached the machine. Harper watched every movement. He pressed a button in the lower left corner, turned a dial she hadn't even seen, and waited. The machine purred like a satisfied kitten. Coffee began to pour. How did you do that? She has her own system. That's not a system, that's witchcraft. Trevor almost moved the corner of his mouth. Harper noticed. She noticed things like that. Always had. It was her gift and her curse. Micro-expressions, minimal gestures, the way people breathed when they were nervous. She read emotions like other people read traffic signs. And Trevor Langford, the CEO who never smiled, had just revealed a crack. You're nervous, she said, without thinking. Trevor froze. What? Right now, you're nervous. Your fingers are drumming on the side of the mug. You've done it 3 times since you came in, and your left shoulder is 1 centimeter higher than the right. Muscle tension. The silence that followed was so dense Harper could chew it. She started. How do you know that? Know what? About the shoulder, the fingers. Harper swallowed hard. I just notice things. It's a factory defect. My mother says I was born paying too much attention to the wrong people. Trevor stared at her. It wasn't a hostile look. It was something different. Something Harper couldn't immediately classify. Curiosity, maybe, or fear, or both. A train passed outside the building, making the windows vibrate. The noise filled the break room for 5 endless seconds. When the silence returned, Trevor had recomposed himself. The 3 o'clock meeting was canceled, he said, returning to professional mode. I need you to reorganize my schedule. Sure, no problem. He turned to leave. Trevor? He stopped. Harper didn't know why she had spoken. The words just escaped. You don't need to be ashamed of being nervous, I mean. Everyone gets nervous. Trevor stood with his back to her for a long moment. I don't get nervous. Okay. I control it. It's different, if you say so. He left. Harper looked at the coffee machine. He gets nervous, she said to the appliance. Very nervous. He's just good at hiding it. The machine made a noise that sounded like agreement. The afternoon brought more chaos. First, the conference room door got stuck with Harper and Trevor inside. Don't push, she said, while he pushed. It's stuck. I know it's stuck. That's why I said don't push. And what's the alternative? Pull? Trevor pulled. The doorknob came with it. They stared at the doorknob in his hand as if it were an alien artifact. This, Harper said slowly, wasn't supposed to happen. Clearly. You pulled off the door. The doorknob. You pulled the doorknob off the door. It was already weak. You're like the Hulk in a suit. Trevor looked at her. Harper covered her mouth. That was a professional observation about strength, ergonomics, office things. You use that excuse for everything. Is it working? No. They stood in silence. Trapped. In a conference room. With a pulled-off doorknob. So, Harper said, because the silence was unbearable, how long until someone notices we're trapped? Trevor looked at his watch. The next meeting is at 5. It's 2:30. Yes. 2.5 hours. Yes. Harper sat on the conference table. Cool. Great. Quality time with the boss. This was exactly what I had planned for my Tuesday. A train passed outside. The windows vibrated. Trevor went to the window and stood looking at the railway line that cut through the city. They pass every 20 minutes, he said. The trains? Yes. The industrial line. Since I was a child. Harper tilted her head. You grew up here, in Pittsburgh? South Side, near the old factories. Really? I imagined you were born somewhere sophisticated, like a mansion with a butler. 2-bedroom apartment, no butler. Trevor kept looking out the window. I counted the trains when I couldn't sleep. The noise calmed me. Harper stayed silent. That was unexpected. Trevor Langford, the beautiful and expensive robot, had just shared something personal. Small, but personal. A childhood memory. A piece of humanity hidden underneath all that control. I used to bite the pillow, she said. Trevor turned around. What? When I couldn't sleep, I bit the pillow. My mother thought I had problems. I probably did. Still do, but at least I stopped biting pillows. The corner of Trevor's mouth trembled. Again. You're strange, he said. I know. Very strange. I know that too. Why do you say everything you think? Harper shrugged. Because if I don't say it, my head gets too noisy. It's like a release valve. If I don't let out a little, I don't know, explode? Trevor watched her for a moment. "When was the last time you laughed?" she asked suddenly. "Like, really laughed. Not a polite smile. Real laughter." He didn't answer. The silence stretched. Another train passed. "I don't know," he said finally, still not looking at her. "I don't remember." Harper felt something tighten in her chest. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. She knew that feeling. "It's lonely, isn't it?" she said quietly. "Controlling everything all the time." Trevor didn't answer, but his left shoulder dropped 1 centimeter. The tension decreased, and Harper realized that, without meaning to, she had just crossed a door that no one else could open. The office doorknob was in his hand, but the real doorknob, the one that mattered, was with her. The janitor rescued them from the conference room at 4:47. 13 minutes later, the video of Harper's first day already had 200,000 views. She found out in the worst possible way. Marcus from finance showed up in the break room laughing so loud he almost knocked over his own coffee. "Did you see it?" he asked Jennifer from marketing, who already had her phone in her hand. "It's everywhere already. Someone leaked the video from the lobby cameras." Harper froze in the hallway. "Cameras, lobby, first day." "No," she whispered. She ran to her desk and opened the browser. The first search suggestion was, "CEO Langford almost smiles clumsy assistant." No, she clicked. The video started with her tripping in the lobby, papers flying in slow motion while an exaggerated romantic soundtrack played in the background. Dramatic violins accompanied each floating sheet. A digital heart appeared when the report landed on the executive's shoe. But the worst part came after. The edit cut to Trevor's office, clearly filmed by someone through the glass, at the exact moment he was watching Harper on the monitor. And then, at maximum zoom, pixelated but visible, the corner of his mouth moving. The video paused there. Red circles appeared around his face. Arrows flashed. The text on screen said, "Did he almost smile?" And then came Harper's murmured comments, subtitled in huge letters, "My impossible dream is not to embarrass myself in public every day." The romantic soundtrack exploded. Digital fireworks, hearts raining on the screen. The video ended with a montage of the two of them side by side, as if it were a romantic comedy movie trailer, with the title, "The ICO and the Assistant Who Talks to Herself." A love story? Harper wanted to disappear. Evaporate. Turn into one of the report sheets she had dropped and just fly away. She started to murmur. "This is the end, the apocalypse. Harper Lewis's personal apocalypse. I always imagined it would be for something grand, like falling off a cliff or being attacked by ducks. But no, it's a meme. I'm going to go down in history as a meme." "Harper?" Trevor's voice sounded behind her. She spun so fast she almost fell off the chair. Again. "I can explain," she said. "Explain what?" "The video. The meme. The digital fireworks. I didn't ask for the fireworks, or the violins, especially not the hearts. The hearts were totally unauthorized." Trevor looked at her with that expression of someone who had no expression. "I already saw the video." "You already? Oh, so you know that I ruined your reputation and probably your life, and maybe your company, with my face and my papers, and my words that I thought were thoughts but apparently were words." "Breathe." "I'm breathing." "You're not," Harper breathed. "Okay, I'm breathing now, breathing and waiting to be fired, both at the same time, multitasking." The main office door opened, and 3 people in suits entered as if they were a small corporate army. Harper recognized 2 of them, board executives. The third was a woman with a tablet who seemed to control the fate of nations. "Mr. Langford," the first executive said, "we need to talk about crisis management." Trevor nodded and guided them into the office. The door closed, but not completely. Harper didn't want to listen. She absolutely, definitely, certainly didn't want to listen, but the acoustics were too good. "The company's image is at risk," the tablet woman's voice echoed. "You built a reputation for efficiency, control, seriousness, and now there's a viral video where you seem human." "Human is bad?" Trevor asked. "Human is unpredictable. Investors don't like unpredictable. They like robots." Harper made a face. "The market already reacted," another executive said. "The stock went up 3% since the video." "It went up?" "The public is loving it, but the board is divided. Half thinks this humanizes the brand, the other half thinks it weakens your authority." "And the solution would be?" "Keep distance from the assistant, professionally speaking." Harper's stomach sank. She didn't do anything wrong. Trevor said. She doesn't need to have done anything wrong to be an image problem. Silence. Harper stepped away from the door. Her hands were shaking. Congratulations, Harper, she murmured to herself, returning to her desk. You did it. First day, and you're already an image problem. Not just a bad employee. A problem. A special category of disaster. Your mother would be so proud. No, she wouldn't. She'd say, I warned you, daughter. I warned you that you'd do something like this. She didn't notice that the office door had opened, or that Trevor was standing there watching. And you know what's worse? She continued, organizing papers that didn't need to be organized. He was kind to me in the conference room. He told me about the trains, about his childhood. And now because of me, he has executives telling him to stay away from me like I'm a contagious disease. A disease that talks to itself and drops things. She sniffled. I ruin everything. I always ruin everything. It's my special talent. Getting into people's lives and creating chaos. Walking chaos. They should hire me to destroy rival companies. I'd be very efficient. Harper, she froze, turned slowly. Trevor was 2 meters away from her. The executives were gone. How much did you hear? She asked. Enough. That phrase is getting repetitive between us. I know. He took a step forward. You're not an image problem. The executives would disagree. The executives worry about stocks. I worry about people. Harper blinked. That's unexpectedly human of you. People keep calling me a robot. Maybe I should stop acting like one. She didn't know what to answer. Trevor went back to his office. At the door, he stopped. And Harper, the board wants me to stay away from you. She swallowed hard. And what are you going to do? He didn't answer. But through the glass door, she saw him sit at his desk and start aligning the pens. Except this time he stopped in the middle, looked at the objects, and left one pen out of place. On purpose. The out-of-place pen stayed in Harper's head all night. The next morning, she arrived at the office determined to do one thing: apologize appropriately. No accidental monologues, no disasters. Just organized words coming out of her mouth in the correct order. She rehearsed in the bathroom mirror for 15 minutes. Mr. Langford, I would like to formally apologize for the trouble caused to your professional image. Period. Simple. Direct, without mentioning robots, trains, or any other subject that might incriminate me. The elevator arrived. The doors opened. Trevor was inside. Coming from the ground floor parking, alone. Harper froze. Are you getting in? He asked. Yes, of course. Absolutely. Getting in now. She got in. The doors closed. 53 floors. She had 53 floors to apologize in a professional and mature way. So, she started. The elevator made a strange noise, a jolt, and stopped. Harper looked at the panel. The number 27 was flashing as if it were having a panic attack. No, she said. The lights flickered. No, no, no. The elevator remained motionless. This isn't happening. Trevor pressed the emergency button. Nothing. Pressed again. Silence. The intercom is out, he said, with the calm of someone announcing the weather forecast. Harper felt the air getting scarce. Okay, it's fine. We're just stuck in an elevator on the 27th floor of a 53-story building in the middle of nowhere without communication. This is completely normal. People get stuck in elevators all the time, statistically speaking. Probably. Trevor watched her. Are you okay? I'm great. Why wouldn't I be? Just because I'm in a metal box suspended by cables that may or may not have been inspected recently? Why would that affect me? She started pacing back and forth. The elevator was small, 3 steps in each direction. Listen here, she said to the button panel. We had a deal. Remember? Last week? I said I wouldn't talk badly about you, and you said you'd take me places without incidents. This is a breach of contract. This is betrayal. Trevor leaned against the wall. You're negotiating with the elevator. I'm establishing boundaries. With a machine. Machines have feelings. They don't. How do you know? Are you a machine? Did you check? Trevor opened his mouth. Closed it. Harper continued her interrogation of the panel. What's your problem? Is it personal? Is it me? Is it him? Because if it's him, I understand. He can be intimidating. But I'm harmless. I dropped reports in your face. You know me. We're practically friends. You dropped reports in the lobby, Trevor corrected. Not in the elevator. Details. The point is that this elevator has a commitment problem. Can't complete a simple task. Floor A to floor B. Is that asking too much? The elevator made a noise that sounded like a mechanical sigh. See? It agrees with me. That was the ventilation system, or it was admitting guilt. Trevor crossed his arms. Silence settled in. Harper hated silence. Silence was the fertile ground where her anxiety planted bad thoughts and harvested panic. Okay, she said, more to herself. Breathe. Think of good things. Beach, sunset, dogs, coffee that doesn't come from possessed machines, the smell of new books, pizza places that deliver in less than 30 minutes. You're listing good things out loud. It's a survival technique. Does it work? I don't know. I've never survived before. This is my first time stuck in an elevator with my billionaire boss after destroying his reputation with a viral meme. It's a very specific situation. There's no manual. Trevor made a strange sound. Harper looked at him. Are you okay? Yes. You made a noise. I didn't. You did. Like a choke or a cough or... She stopped, looked closer. Trevor's shoulders were shaking slightly. Are you laughing? You are. I don't laugh. Your shoulders are having a private earthquake. That's laughter. Trevor turned his face, but Harper saw it, the corner of his mouth, going up, not almost going up, really going up. A smile, small, contained, fighting not to exist but real. You're smiling. I'm not. Trevor Langford is smiling in a broken elevator because of me. This is historic. This is worth the $12,000 from the game. What game? Hunters of the Lost Smile. Everyone in the office bets on who can make you smile. Nobody's ever won, but I won. Technically. Accidentally, but I won. Trevor stared at her. The smile had disappeared, replaced by something that looked like genuine confusion. People bet on this? For 3 years. Why? Because you never smile. You're like an urban legend, the ICE CEO. The man without expressions. Some people think you were programmed, like artificial intelligence with a nice suit. Trevor stayed silent. Harper realized she might have said too much. Again. Sorry, she said. I shouldn't have told you. It's weird. It's invasive. It's true. She blinked. What? It's true. I don't smile. Why not? He didn't answer immediately. The elevator remained stopped. The number 27 still flashed, but somehow the space between them had changed. Because smiling is losing control, he said finally. It's showing that something affected you. And when you show that something affects you, people use it. Harper felt her chest tighten. That's very sad. It's efficient. It's lonely. Trevor looked at her. I don't know anymore how it is, he said so quietly it was almost inaudible. To laugh without fear, without calculating, without thinking about who's watching and what they'll think. I don't remember what it's like to just feel. Harper said nothing. Sometimes silence was the right answer. The elevator jolted. The lights stabilized. The number changed from 27 to 28. They were moving again. Harper, Trevor said. Yes? Thank you. For what? He didn't answer. But when the doors opened on the 53rd floor, Harper noticed something that made her heart race. Trevor still had a trace of a smile on his face, and he didn't seem to be trying to hide it. The trace of a smile lasted exactly until the office door opened. On the other side, 3 board members waited with expressions that made funerals look like birthday parties. In the center of them stood Richard Donovan, Chief Financial Officer, holding a folder as if it were a weapon. Harper felt the climate change before any words were spoken. Trevor, Richard said without greeting, we need to talk. In private. Trevor looked at Harper. She got the message. I'll get coffee, she said, already stepping away. Coffee for everyone. Lots of coffee, gallons of coffee, maybe an ocean of coffee. Nobody responded. The office door closed. Harper stood in the hallway, her heart racing for reasons she couldn't explain. Okay, she murmured. Something's wrong, very wrong. I know how to recognize a tense meeting. That wasn't a tense meeting. That was an emotional fire alarm. Code red, internal sirens, people about to explode. She went to the break room. The coffee machine hissed in greeting. At least you're on my side, Harper said, pressing buttons. While the coffee poured, she thought. Richard Donovan. She had crossed paths with him twice since she started. The first time, he passed by her without looking, as if assistants were invisible furniture. The second time, he smiled, and it was the smile that bothered her. It didn't match his eyes. Harper had a radar for that. Fake smiles were like silent alarms. She always heard them, even when no one else noticed. You're thinking out loud again. She jumped. Jennifer from marketing was at the break room entrance holding an empty mug. I was reflecting, internally, with some external parts. You said silent alarms out loud. That was a metaphor. For what? Harper hesitated. Do you know Richard Donovan? Jennifer made a face. The CFO? Of course. Why? Is he trustworthy? He's competent. Why? Competent isn't the same as trustworthy. Jennifer looked at her with curiosity. What do you know? Nothing. I just feel things. Feel things. Forget it. I'll take the coffee. Harper filled 4 mugs and balanced them on a tray that definitely wasn't designed to be carried by a person with her disaster history. You can do this, she whispered to herself. One hand in front of the other. I mean 1 foot. 1 foot in front of the other. Hands hold, feet walk. Division of labor. She reached the office. The door was ajar. Voices escaped. The numbers don't lie, Trevor, Richard was saying. Someone transferred funds to external accounts, and all the authorizations have your digital signature. I didn't authorize any transfers. The documents say otherwise. Harper froze. This is a setup, Trevor said. You know that. What I know is what the numbers show, and the numbers show that $50 million disappeared from the operating account. If this leaks, the board will ask for your head. Silence. Harper felt the tray shaking in her hands. Give me a week, Trevor said. 1 week to investigate. You have 3 days. After that, I'm going to the board. Footsteps approached. Harper panicked. She needed to look natural, like someone who hadn't heard anything, someone who was just delivering coffee in a totally innocent way. The door opened. Richard Donovan stopped in front of her. Harper smiled. Coffee? He looked her up and down. No, thank you, and passed by her as if she were an inconvenient obstacle. The other board members followed, equally silent. Harper entered the office. Trevor was standing by the window, looking at the city. She placed the tray on the desk. I heard, she said. He didn't turn around. I know. You didn't do it. How do you know? Because I know. Now he turned around. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Trevor stared at her. Harper held his gaze. You align pens when you're nervous, she said. You move objects when you lose control. You don't look people in the eye when you lie. But now you're looking straight at me. And your hands are still. You're not nervous. You're angry. Angry at whoever accused you, not guilty. If you had done it, you'd be aligning every object in this room. Trevor stayed silent for a long moment. You notice all of this? I notice too much. It's a problem. It's a gift. Sometimes it's a nightmare. He almost smiled. Almost. Richard, Harper said. When he talks to you, he blinks too fast and his left shoulder tenses. He's hiding something. You notice that in 2 meetings? I notice in 2 seconds. It's automatic. My brain doesn't turn off. Trevor walked to the desk, sat down. For the first time since she'd known him, he looked tired. I've always faced everything alone, he said. From the beginning, I built this company with my own hands. Every decision, every crisis, every problem, alone. Because if you depend on someone, that person can betray you. Harper sat in the chair across from him. And did it work? What? Being alone. Did it work? He didn't answer. The silence said everything. You don't have to do this alone, she said, this time. You're my temporary assistant for less than 2 weeks. So what? So what? You have no obligation to get involved. Obligation? No. Choice? Yes. Trevor looked at her. Harper felt something change in the air between them. It wasn't romantic. Not yet. It was something rarer. Trust. Okay, she said, standing up. First step, we need the original documents. If someone forged your signature, there has to be some difference. Second step, we need to find out who had access to the accounts. Third step, you're putting together a plan. I'm putting together a plan. You're an assistant with special emotional detection skills and a tendency to talk to herself that occasionally reveals useful information. Would you rather do it alone? Trevor considered. No. Harper smiled. Then let's go, she went to the door. Harper, she stopped. Why are you doing this? She thought about the answer. Because someone needs to show you that not everyone betrays, and apparently that someone is me, the assistant who drops things and talks to elevators. She left. Trevor stared at the closed door for a long moment. Then he looked at his desk. The pens were misaligned, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel like fixing them. The misaligned pens were just the beginning. The next morning, Trevor showed up at Harper's desk with an address scribbled on a paper and an expression that said, "Don't ask, just come." She asked, "Where are we going?" "Dead files. South Industrial Sector." Dead files sounds like a place where documents go to be forgotten and possibly haunt people. That's exactly what it is. Great. I love haunted places. It was my childhood dream, visiting abandoned archives with billionaire CEOs accused of fraud. Trevor looked at her. Are you coming or not? Of course I'm coming. Someone needs to document this for when it becomes a movie. The South Industrial sector of Pittsburgh was the kind of place that time forgot to modernize. Red brick buildings darkened by decades of smoke, windows that probably hadn't been cleaned since the 80s, and train tracks so close to the buildings that you could feel the ground shake when the cars passed. The Langford Industries dead files were on the third floor of one of these buildings. Harper climbed the stairs behind Trevor, each step creaking in protest. You know, she murmured, that in horror movies, this is exactly the moment when the music gets tense and someone says, let's split up. We're not splitting up. That's comforting, or suspicious. I haven't decided yet. The third-floor hallway smelled of old paper and regretted corporate decisions. Trevor stopped in front of a metal door. The original transfer records should be here. Before everything was digitized, it was filed manually. If someone forged my signature, there might be a different original version. You're telling me that the evidence that can save you is in an abandoned building that looks like a B-movie set? Yes. Your life is very dramatic for a tech CEO. He opened the door. The archive was a labyrinth of metal shelves covered in dust and boxes stacked to the ceiling. Light came from dirty windows that filtered Pittsburgh's sun as if they had something personal against vitamin D. We're looking for 2019 records, Trevor said. Financial section. Transfers subsection. You talk as if this was organized. It was, 10 years ago. Harper looked around. Boxes were stacked with no apparent logic. Some had labels, others just had stuff. Written with permanent marker. Who labeled a box as stuff? Probably the same employee who labeled that one as important papers, maybe. Harper saw the box in question. That doesn't inspire confidence in the filing system. That's why we switched to digital. And look how well that worked out. Trevor almost smiled. Harper was starting to recognize these almosts. They were like small secret victories. They separated among the shelves. Not much, just enough to cover more ground. Harper was examining a box from 2018 when the first train passed. The noise was so loud she felt it in her bones. The entire building shook. Dust fell from the ceiling like industrial snow. Okay, she shouted to the train that couldn't hear her. Polite, very polite. You could have warned me. A honk. Anything. The train kept passing, indifferent to her indignation. Are you fighting with the train? Trevor's voice came from 2 shelves ahead. I'm establishing boundaries. It invaded my auditory personal space. It's a train, and I'm a person with rights. Right to peace, right to silence, right to not have a heart attack at 10 in the morning because of freight transport. The train finally passed. The silence that followed seemed almost sacred. Harper took a deep breath. Found it, Trevor said. She went to him. He was holding an old folder, yellowed by time, with typewritten labels. Transfers 2019, first quarter, he read. If the original signature is different. Another train. This one came from the opposite side, even closer. The building swayed. Harper lost her balance. She stumbled forward, her arms spinning in the air like desperate windmills. And then Trevor caught her by the waist, with both hands, firm. The train passed thundering, making everything vibrate, but Harper couldn't hear anything but her own heart. Trevor's eyes were very close, closer than they had ever been. She could see details she'd never noticed, a tone of gold in the brown of his eyes, a small scar on his left eyebrow, the way his eyelashes were annoyingly long for a man who didn't show emotions. Are you okay? He asked. His voice was different, lower. Huskier. Was all she could say. The train passed. Silence returned. Trevor didn't let go. The train is gone, Harper said, her voice coming out strange. I know. You're still holding me. I know. Why? He didn't answer. His fingers were warm through the fabric of her blouse. Harper could feel each point of contact as if they were fire marks. Trevor? Yes? I need you to let me go. Why? Because if you don't let go, I'm going to do something stupid. Like what? Like get attached. The word came out before she could stop it. Trevor finally let go, but slowly. as if each centimeter of distance cost something. Harper took a step back, then another, leaned against a dusty shelf. "Sorry," she said. "I shouldn't have said that." "Why not?" "Because it's true, and truths are dangerous, especially truths about feelings. Especially feelings about people who are my bosses. Especially billionaire bosses accused of fraud who hold me by the waist while trains pass as if this were a low-budget romantic movie." Trevor watched her. "You're afraid of getting attached." "I'm afraid of getting attached and then losing." "It's different." "It's the same thing." "It's not." "It is. You don't know anything about me. I know you talk to yourself because you're afraid of being silent with your own thoughts. I know you notice emotions in others because it's easier than dealing with your own. And I know you're afraid right now." Harper swallowed hard. "How do you know?" "Because I am too." Another train began to pass in the distance. This time, neither of them moved. "We found what we came for," Harper said finally, pointing to the folder in his hand. "We should go." Trevor looked at the folder, as if he'd forgotten it existed. "Yes," he said, "we should." They left the archive in silence. But when they reached the stairs, Harper looked back one last time, and saw that Trevor was looking at her the same way she was looking at him, as if something had changed. And there was no going back. Back at the office, the yellowed folder had the proof they needed. Trevor's original signature was completely different from the one that appeared in the digital documents. Someone had forged it and done a mediocre job. The initial T had the wrong slant, and the L in Langford ended straight when the real one always curved down. "This is evidence," Harper said, comparing the documents on the office desk. "This is concrete proof of forgery. It's evidence that someone made a mistake copying my signature. It doesn't prove who. But we know who. Suspecting isn't knowing." Harper closed the folder harder than necessary. "Then we need to make him confess. Richard Donovan isn't going to confess because we asked politely." "Who said I'm going to ask politely?" Trevor looked at her. "What are you planning?" "Nothing." "Harper, absolutely nothing. Your left eye twitched. You're lying." "My eye didn't twitch." "It did." "How do you know my eye twitches when I lie?" "Because I pay attention to you." Harper felt her face heat up. Was that a declaration or a professional observation? "Both." "You can't say both. That's against the rules." "What rules?" "The rules of keeping things uncomplicated." "Things are already complicated." Harper opened her mouth to respond, but the intercom rang. "Mr. Langford," the receptionist's voice sounded. "Mr. Donovan is on his way up. He requested an emergency meeting." Trevor and Harper exchanged looks. "He's coming here?" she asked. "Apparently." "Now?" "Yes." "For what purpose?" "Probably to accuse me of something else." Harper put the folder in a drawer and sat at her desk trying to look normal. Looking normal wasn't her strong suit. "Okay," she murmured. "Act natural. You're a regular assistant doing regular assistant things. Typing, organizing, not investigating corporate fraud or developing feelings for the boss. Completely normal." The elevator door opened. Richard Donovan entered as if the office were his. Impeccable suit, perfectly combed hair, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Harper felt her internal radar go off. "Trevor," Richard said, completely ignoring her existence. "We need to talk about the situation." "What situation?" "The board is impatient. They want a resolution. And honestly, I'm trying to protect you, but you're not making it easy." Harper observed every micro-expression. The rapid blinking was there. The tense shoulder, too. But there was something new. Richard's right hand was gripping the folder he carried with excessive force. Nervousness. He was nervous. "Protect how?" Trevor asked, convincing the board not to go straight to the authorities. "You know how that would look? The founder of Langford Industries accused of embezzlement? It would be the end." "It would be the end if I were guilty." "The evidence says you are. Evidence can be fabricated." Richard laughed. It was a short, controlled laugh, but Harper saw what was underneath. Tear. "Fabricated? By whom?" Harper stood up. Trevor turned to her. "Harper, don't." She raised her hand. He stopped talking. Richard looked at her as if he'd just noticed there was a mosquito in the room. "Excuse me, you are?" "The assistant." "Right. And assistants don't participate in executive meetings. Assistants also don't investigate fraud, but here we are." The silence that followed was almost solid. "What did you say?" Richard asked. "I said here we are. In an interesting situation, you accusing Trevor of embezzlement. Trevor claiming innocence, and in the middle of it all some inconsistencies that bother me. Inconsistencies? You blink too fast when you talk about the transfers. Your left shoulder tenses when you mention the evidence, and just now, when Trevor suggested the evidence was fabricated, your hand squeezed the folder as if it contained something you don't want us to see. Richard went pale. This is ridiculous. Is it? Then why are you sweating? I'm not. Your temple, right side. A drop. Small but visible. Trevor was watching Harper with an expression she couldn't classify. Impressed? Worried? Both? You're an assistant, Richard said, his voice getting harder. A temporary employee who barely knows how this company works, and you're accusing me of fraud based on blinking, based on behavior, body language, nervousness patterns that don't match someone who's telling the truth. That's not proof of anything. No, but this is. Harper went to the drawer, pulled out the yellowed folder. Original records from 2019. Trevor's manual signature, compared to the signature in the digital documents you presented to the board. Want to guess what we found? Richard didn't move. They're different, Harper continued. The signature was forged, and to forge it, someone needed access to the systems, access that the CFO would have. That doesn't prove it was me. No, but it proves someone forged documents, and that Trevor is innocent. Richard looked at Trevor, then at Harper, then at the folder. You don't know what you're getting into, he said, his voice low, controlled, dangerous. This goes way beyond signatures. Is that a confession? That's a warning. He turned and left. The door slammed behind him. Harper let out the air she didn't know she was holding. You just confronted a corrupt executive, Trevor said. I know. Based on blinking, and behavior, and documentary evidence. You could have put yourself in danger. I know. Why? Harper looked at him. The answer was too obvious to say out loud, because you didn't deserve to be accused of something you didn't do. Is that the only reason? She didn't answer. Trevor took a step toward her. Harper, don't do that. Do what? Get close like that. Say my name like that. Look at me like that. Like what? Like I matter. You do matter. The words hung in the air. Trevor's phone rang, breaking the moment. He answered. Listened. His face changed. What? Harper asked when he hung up. Richard went to the board. He called an emergency assembly for tomorrow. Is that bad? He's asking for my immediate removal from the position. Harper felt her stomach sink. And the worst part, Trevor continued, he has something else, something he hasn't used yet. How do you know? Because he looked too confident when he left. Harper looked at the door where Richard had disappeared. She had thought they had the advantage. Now she wasn't so sure. Richard's confidence had a reason. The next morning, Harper discovered what it was. He had summoned not just the board, but also the press. What should have been an internal meeting had turned into a public event in the main hall of Langford Industries, with journalists, cameras, and investors occupying every available seat. This is an ambush, Harper said, peeking through the office window. A corporate ambush with canapes and sparkling water. Trevor was adjusting his tie for the 10th time. He wants to humiliate me publicly. If I fall, he wants the world to see it. You're not gonna fall. Harper? You're not gonna fall. We have the evidence. We have the forged signature. We have documents from a dusty archive against the word of a CFO with 15 years at the company and the board in his pocket. Harper stopped. He was right. She murmured, starting to pace in circles. Okay. Need to think. Thinking is good. Thinking solves things. What do we have? Documentary evidence. Behavioral inconsistencies. My strange ability to read people. Your face of someone who's never done anything wrong in their life, which is annoying but useful in this context. You're talking to yourself. I'm processing out loud. Very loud. It's my method. Don't criticize my method. My method already saved you once. Trevor watched her pace back and forth. You're nervous. I'm not nervous. I'm strategically agitated. That's the same thing. It's not. Nervous is bad. Strategically agitated is productive. She stopped suddenly. You need to make him react. What? At the event. Richard? He's good at controlling the narrative, but he's not good at controlling emotions. I saw it. When I confronted him yesterday, he lost his composure for a few seconds. If you can do that in front of everyone, he'll give himself away. Or at least he'll give something I can use. You'll be there? Of course I'll be there. You think I'd miss this? It's like a live season finale, with a corporate villain and everything. Trevor almost smiled. Harper noticed. You're getting good at this. At what? Almost smiling. Before it was millimetric, now it's almost perceptible to the naked eye. I'm proud of your progress. This time he really smiled. Small, quick, but real. Harper felt her heart do something stupid in her chest. Let's go, he said, before I change my mind. The main hall was packed. Harper positioned herself in the back, near a column that gave her a view of both the stage and the audience. The plan was simple. Observe Richard, catch any sign of nervousness, and somehow communicate it to Trevor. The problem was that somehow wasn't exactly a plan. Details, she murmured. Details are for organized people. I'm more of a creative improvisation type. A journalist next to her looked with curiosity. Harper smiled. Rehearsing for a play about business. The journalist moved away. On stage, Richard Donovan took the microphone. Thank you all for coming, he began, with the voice of someone who had already won. We're here today to discuss the future of Langford Industries and the serious situation we discovered internally. Harper observed his every movement. Confident posture, controlled smile, no sign of nervousness. He had prepared. Recent documents revealed unauthorized transfers, Richard continued, totaling $50 million, all authorized by a single person. He looked at Trevor, who was sitting in the front row. The founder of this company. Murmurs in the audience, cameras clicking. Harper felt her stomach turn. That's a lie, she whispered. Lie, lie, lie. He's lying and nobody sees it. How does nobody see it? A sound technician looked at her. Harper realized the lapel microphone in the corner of the column was on and picking up everything. Oh no! The situation is serious, Richard continued on stage, and requires drastic measures. The board will vote today. He blinks when he lies, Harper's voice echoed through the speakers. The entire hall turned around. Richard stopped talking. Trevor looked back. Harper was frozen, staring at the microphone as if it were a poisonous snake. She started. Too late. Blinks fast, her voice continued through the sound system, because apparently the universe hated her. And the left shoulder tenses. Whenever he talks about the evidence, it's a pattern, like a guilty person's tic. Absolute silence. Richard turned red. Who is this person? Trevor stood up. My assistant. Your assistant is sabotaging this meeting? My assistant is telling the truth. Trevor walked to the stage. Harper wanted to disappear, turn into smoke, be abducted by aliens. Anything but being there at that moment, with hundreds of eyes fixed on her. I have documents, Trevor said, pulling the folder from his jacket. Original records from 2019. The signature on the transfers was forged. This is ridiculous, Richard said. You're using a temporary employee to create distractions. I'm using documentary evidence to prove my innocence. Evidence from an abandoned archive? Anyone could have fabricated that. Then compare it with the Federal Registry records, the authenticated signatures on official contracts. You'll see they don't match. Richard hesitated. Harper saw it. The blinking accelerated, the shoulder tensed, and something new. His right hand went to his jacket pocket. A quick movement, almost imperceptible. He has something in his pocket, Harper said, forgetting the microphone was still on. Right pocket, he just checked. Nervousness, he's hiding something. Everyone looked at Richard. He froze. This is absurd, he said, but his voice wavered. Then empty your pockets, one of the board members said. I'm not going to. If you have nothing to hide, empty your pockets. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard looked around, at the cameras, at the journalists, at the board, and Harper saw the exact moment when he realized he had lost. He started, and then he did the only thing he could do. He ran. The chaos was instant. Security moved, journalists shouted, cameras tried to capture the escape. But Harper wasn't looking at Richard. She was looking at Trevor. He was standing on the stage, folder in hand, watching the man who tried to destroy him flee like a coward. And then he did something Harper would never forget. He looked at her. Through the crowd, through the chaos, and smiled almost. Not millimetric, a real smile. To her. Harper's hands were shaking, not from nervousness, from something much more frightening. Realization of how much she cared, of how much this was going to hurt when it ended. Richard didn't get far. Security intercepted him in the hallway before he reached the elevator. The scene was almost comical. A 53-year-old CFO trying to run in a suit and dress shoes, sliding on the marble floor like a penguin on the run. Harper watched everything through the hall's glass doors. That was anticlimactic, she murmured. I was expecting at least a car chase, maybe helicopters, dramatic music. The sound technician who was still beside her took a step back. The microphone is still on, he said. Harper looked at the equipment, looked at the hall full of people, looked at the cameras that were now turned toward her. Of course it is, she said to the universe. Why wouldn't it be? Why would I have a single public experience that didn't involve collective humiliation? Scattered laughter from the audience. Harper wanted to disappear. On stage, Trevor picked up the microphone Richard had abandoned. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, with the calm voice that only innocent billionaires can maintain, I think we have some clarifications to make. The hall fell silent. Harper tried to hide behind the column. The column wasn't wide enough. The documents I mentioned are being verified as we speak, Trevor continued. The forged signature will be compared with federal records, but I think Mr. Donovan's reaction already said what we needed to know. Murmurs of agreement. However, Trevor looked directly at Harper. I must thank the person who made this possible. No. My assistant, Harper Lewis. All the cameras turned. All eyes turned. Harper made an awkward wave that looked more like a spasm. Hi, she said to the microphone that was still picking up everything. I'm me, the person who talks to herself. You probably already know that. From the viral video, and now from this, I have a talent for creating embarrassing content accidentally. You should hire me for marketing. Or fire me. Probably fire me. More laughter. Trevor came down from the stage. Harper felt panic grow with each step he took toward her. What are you doing? She whispered when he got close. There are cameras, lots of cameras. You should be up there being professional and CEO and all those things you do. I'm being sincere. Sincere is dangerous. Sincere in front of journalists is corporate suicide. Harper. What? Stop talking. I can't stop talking. You know I can't. It's my main flaw. Among several other flaws, but this is the one that shows up most in public situations. Trevor was smiling. Not almost. Really smiling. In front of everyone. You're... Harper started. Smiling. I know. In front of cameras. I know. This is gonna go viral. I know. You're gonna be news. CEO who never smiled finally smiles at clumsy assistant. This is going to destroy your corporate robot reputation. Great. I was tired of that reputation. Harper didn't know what to say. For the first time in her life, she had no words. And then Trevor did something worse. He laughed. Not a contained laugh. Not an almost laugh. A real laugh. Loud that came from deep in his chest and filled the entire hall. The sound was so unexpected that people stopped breathing. Trevor Langford, the CEO who never smiled, was laughing. In front of journalists, investors, board members, and approximately 15 cameras broadcasting live. I did this, Harper murmured, looking around in panic. I broke the CEO. You're all witnesses. I didn't mean to. It happened naturally. Please don't sue me. Trevor laughed more. The audience started laughing too. And then, as if the universe decided Harper hadn't suffered enough, someone shouted, "Kiss her." Harper froze. Trevor stopped laughing. The silence that followed was deafening. That was, Harper started. Inappropriate, Trevor completed. Very inappropriate. Completely out of context. We're work colleagues, professionals. Exactly. They were half a meter apart. The cameras were still filming. Although, Harper said, because her mouth apparently had no survival instinct, technically I'm temporary, so we're not exactly colleagues. More like professional acquaintances with an expiration date. Expiration date? My contract ends in 2 weeks. I go back to, I don't know, looking for a job, dropping reports at other companies, continuing my life of scheduled disasters. Something changed in Trevor's face. Harper recognized it. It was the same expression she saw in the mirror when she thought about the end of all this. You're leaving, he said. It wasn't a question. I don't have a choice. I'm temporary. You'll go back to being the perfect CEO. The company will recover. And I'll be a funny story you tell at dinners. Remember that assistant who talked to herself? She made me laugh once. It was bizarre. Harper, it's okay, really. You don't need to. I don't want you to go. The words stopped time. Or at least stopped Harper. What? I don't want you to go, Trevor repeated. I don't want to go back to being who I was before. I don't want to align pens in silence. I don't want to go days without laughing. I don't want—" He stopped, breathed. "I don't want to do this without you." Harper felt her eyes burn. "You're saying this in front of cameras. I know. This is going to be a headline tomorrow. I know. Your life is going to change. It already changed. The day you dropped those reports in the lobby and said your impossible dream was not to embarrass yourself in public." Harper let out a laugh that was half crying. "I fail miserably at that dream. I know. It's one of the things I like most about you." The entire hall was silent, waiting. Harper looked at Trevor, at the man who never smiled, who now smiled at her, in front of the whole world. "You're crazy," she said. "Probably. This isn't going to work. Probably not. I'm going to destroy your organized life. I hope so." Harper couldn't hold it in. She laughed, and cried, and laughed again, and when Trevor extended his hand to her, in front of all those cameras, in front of everyone, she did the only thing that made sense. She held it back. The flashes went off, the murmurs exploded, and somewhere in the world, a video of a CEO laughing for the first time was starting to go viral. But Harper wasn't paying attention to that. She was paying attention to the hand holding hers, and to the fear that was beginning to transform into hope. Soon after came the press officers, the lawyers, the board members wanting explanations. Trevor was swallowed by a tide of suits and urgent questions. Harper let go of him professionally and stepped away to watch the police officers escorting Donovan. Richard Donovan was led away in handcuffs through the same hallways he used to walk through like he owned them. Harper watched from afar while two police officers escorted him to the elevator, the same elevator she and Trevor had been stuck in weeks ago. The security guards who intercepted him during his escape had already handed him over to the authorities, and now the former CFO walked with his head down, his suit wrinkled, and all that arrogance transformed into defeated silence. "This is poetic," she murmured, "extremely poetic." Marcus from finance appeared beside her, eating a sandwich as if he were watching a movie. "They found a flash drive in his pocket," he said between bites. "It had everything. Transfer records, offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, emails to accomplices. The guy kept the evidence of his own fraud in his jacket pocket." "He walked around with that?" "Apparently. The lawyers are saying it's the easiest corporate fraud case they've ever seen. It's like a criminal who leaves a crime diary at the scene." Harper shook her head. "And I thought I was clumsy." The elevator doors opened. Before entering, Richard looked back, scanning the lobby with his eyes until he found Harper. His look was pure poison. She waved, not a friendly wave, a goodbye, enjoy the next 20 years wave. The doors closed. "How much time is he going to get?" she asked. "Large-scale corporate fraud, forgery of federal documents, attempted framing of an executive. The lawyers are talking about 20 years minimum." 20 years. No possibility of reduction for the first 12. He'll come out of there very old, if he comes out. Harper should feel satisfaction, relief, victory. But all she felt was a strange emptiness now that the adrenaline was wearing off. As if the battle had ended and she no longer knew what her role in the story was. Jennifer from marketing joined them. "Did you see? The board just released an official statement. Trevor was completely exonerated. The stock went up 8% in the last 30 minutes. Investors are loving the CEO who faced internal corruption narrative, and the assistant who talks to herself and accidentally exposed everything through the microphone story?" Harper asked. Jennifer smiled. "You're trending too. There's a hashtag and everything. They're calling you the human lie detector." "That's horrible. I don't want to be known for detecting lies. I want to be known for, I don't know, anything else. Like making good brownies, or having a famous internet cat." "Too late, you're viral again," Harper groaned. "I need air." She walked away before anyone could respond, crossing the lobby toward the stairs. Not the elevator. She had too much history with elevators in this building. The rooftop was the only place where she could be alone. Or at least that's what she thought. The rooftop had a privileged view of Pittsburgh. The metal bridges crossing the three rivers, the old buildings mixed with the modern ones, and in the distance, the sound of trains cutting through the city like steel veins. Harper leaned against the safety railing and took a deep breath. "Okay," she said to the wind. Let's process. Richard was arrested. Trevor was exonerated. The company is saved. Everything should be perfect. So why are you up here running away like you always do? She paced back and forth. Because you're a coward, Harper. That's it. You confront corrupt directors in front of journalists, but you can't face your own feelings. You detect lies in others, but you lie to yourself all the time. The wind blew stronger, messing up her hair. Oh, I don't care about him. Lie. Oh, this is just professional. Even bigger lie. Oh, I can leave when my contract ends and pretend nothing happened. The biggest lie of all. You should detect yourself, you hypocrite. She stopped walking. And now you're fighting with yourself. Out loud, on the rooftop of a corporate building. This is a new level of crazy, even for you. Congratulations. Your mother would be so proud. No, she wouldn't. She'd say, I always knew you'd end up talking to yourself on someone's roof somewhere. The wind didn't answer. You could at least pretend you're listening, she said to the air. I'm having an existential crisis here. The wind isn't very good at conversations. Harper spun so fast she almost tripped over her own feet. Trevor was standing at the rooftop entrance, hands in his pockets, tie slightly loose for the first time since she'd known him. How long have you been there? She asked, her face catching fire. Long enough to hear you call yourself a hypocrite. Great. Wonderful. Another humiliation. Is this one public or technically private? Private. It's just me here. That's somehow worse. Trevor approached. Harper took a step back. What are you doing up here? She asked. You should be down there, giving interviews, receiving congratulations, shaking hands with important people, doing victorious, exonerated CEO things. I was looking for you. Why? Because you disappeared. I didn't disappear. I strategically withdrew. To the rooftop. It's a very strategic rooftop. It has a view and wind and absence of cameras that pick up things I say accidentally. Trevor almost smiled. Why did you run away, Harper? I didn't run away. Harper. Okay, I ran away. Satisfied? I ran away because it's what I do. It's my default defense mechanism. Complicated emotional situation? Run. Confusing feelings? Run. Billionaire CEO holding my hand in front of cameras after declaring he wants me to stay? Run at maximum speed. Why did holding your hand scare you so much? Harper let out a laugh without humor. Because it made sense. It shouldn't make sense. None of this should make sense. You're you and I'm me. Your order, I'm walking chaos. Your productive silence, I'm constant noise. You align pens for therapy, I knock down entire civilizations metaphorically. I like the chaos. Trevor, I spent years in order. Years aligning pens, organizing spreadsheets, controlling every detail of my life. And you know what I discovered? What? Perfect order is just well-organized loneliness. Harper felt her chest tighten. You can't like chaos, she said, her voice weak. You can't just decide you like me because I'm different. That's not fair. That doesn't work in the real world. Why not? Because, she exploded, because I'm temporary. In everything. Always. Temporary job, temporary apartment, temporary place in people's lives. I'm the person who passes through, Trevor. Who shows up, makes noise, and then leaves. Nobody ever chose me to stay. Never. Nobody ever looked at me and said, I want her, permanently, with all the flaws and disasters included. The tears came before she could stop them. And I can't be temporary with you. I can't. Because if I stay and then you realize I'm too much, that I talk too much, feel too much, mess up too much, I won't recover. Not this time. You're too important. This is too important. The silence that followed weighed like lead. Trevor walked to her, slowly, like someone approaching something precious. Harper, do you want to know what I saw on the first day, when you dropped those reports in the lobby? She sniffled. An idiot playing the fool? No, I saw color. What? Color. For the first time in years, my life was gray. Numbers, meetings, calculated decisions. Everything worked and nothing meant anything. And then you showed up. Dropping things, talking to yourself, fighting with the universe, and suddenly there was color again. He stopped in front of her. You're not temporary, not to me. You're the first real thing that's happened in my life in years. Harper closed her eyes. I'm afraid. Me too. This could go wrong. It could. I could destroy your organized life. I hope so. She opened her eyes. Stay, he said. Not because I need an assistant. Stay because I need you. The person who talks to herself, who fights with machines, who sees things no one else sees. Stay because my life makes more sense with you in it. Harper looked at him, at the man who never smiled, who now smiled at her. "I'm a disaster," she said. "I know. I don't know how to eat soup without spilling." "We'll avoid soup." She laughed, cried, laughed again. "Okay? I'll stay." Trevor held her hand, and this time Harper didn't run, didn't count the seconds, just stayed. And when he leaned toward her, Harper's heart raced so hard she was sure he could hear it. But before their lips touched, Trevor's phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again and again. "You should answer," Harper whispered. "I really shouldn't. It might be important. Nothing is more important than this." The phone stopped. Trevor leaned in again. The phone rang for the fourth time. Harper laughed. "The universe is against us." Trevor sighed, picked up the phone and looked at the screen. His face changed. "What is it?" Harper asked. He showed her the message. It was from Jennifer, from marketing. "You two need to see this. Now. The rooftop video is live." Harper looked up. In the corner of the rooftop, almost invisible, a small security camera blinked its red light, straight at them. The rooftop camera wasn't broadcasting live. Jennifer had lied, or rather, had given a strategic push so Trevor would finally take action. When Harper found out 3 days later, she almost threw a pillow at her colleague's head. Almost. Because deep down, really deep down, she was grateful for the interference. Not that she would admit that out loud. The months that followed were the strangest and most wonderful of Harper's life. She stopped being a temporary assistant and became, well, nobody knew exactly what. Officially, HR had promoted her to interpersonal communication consultant. Unofficially, everyone called her the boss's girlfriend who talks to herself. She preferred the second title. It was more honest. Trevor continued being Trevor, organized, methodical, with a tendency to align objects when he got nervous. But now he smiled. Not always, not for everyone, but for her, yes. Small smiles during meetings, bigger smiles when she said something particularly absurd. And sometimes, when he thought no one was looking, smiles that made her heart do completely inappropriate things for a corporate environment. The Hunters of the Lost Smile game was officially ended. Marcus from finance cried when he had to return the accumulated money. $12,300 divided among 47 employees. Some demanded that Harper receive her share. Since technically she had won, she refused. Said her prize was much better than money. Jennifer laughed so hard at how cute it was. Now 6 months after that chaotic day in the event hall, Harper stood in front of her apartment mirror, trying to understand why Trevor had sent a message at 6 in the morning asking her to wear something nice but comfortable and be ready at 5 in the afternoon. Something nice but comfortable, she repeated to her reflection. What does that mean? Nice like party dress? Comfortable like pajamas? Nice and comfortable are opposite concepts. Everyone knows that. Nice shoes are torture. Comfortable clothes look like potato sacks. Is he testing me? Is it a test? The reflection didn't answer. You're as useful as the wind on the rooftop. She opted for a blue dress she had bought on impulse and never worn. It was nice enough for a fancy restaurant, but comfortable enough for her to breathe. A miracle of textile engineering. At 5 o'clock sharp, a message arrived. Come down. There's a car waiting for you. A car, Harper murmured while grabbing her purse. He sent a car. This is very formal, very planned. Trevor doesn't do planned things without a reason. He schedules even bathroom trips. What is he planning? The car was black, elegant, and had a driver who refused to say where they were going. Orders from Mr. Langford, he said with a smile that suggested he knew exactly what was happening and was enjoying the suspense very much. You're all conspiring against me, Harper said. I see the conspiracy. I detect conspiracies. It's my gift. Would the lady like some water? I would like information. I only have water. Then no, thank you. The car crossed Pittsburgh, passing through downtown, over the bridges, through neighborhoods Harper was still learning to know. When they started entering the South Industrial Zone, her heart accelerated. She knew this route. Are we going to the dead files? She asked. The driver smiled. The lady will see. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have permission to give. Harper crossed her arms. You and Trevor are perfect for each other. Two masters of non-information. The car stopped near the old train tracks, not far from the red brick building where they had found the documents that saved the company. But instead of the abandoned building, there was something new there. A white tent, with hanging lights. And flowers. Lots of flowers. What? Harper started. The driver opened the door for her. Mr. Langford is waiting. Harper got out of the car with trembling legs. The tent was small, intimate, set up in a clearing between the old tracks and a group of trees she hadn't noticed last time. The lights were those small ones, like fairy lights, that made everything seem magical and slightly unreal. The flowers were yellow, her favorites. She had mentioned that once, weeks ago, not thinking he was paying attention. He was always paying attention, and in the center of everything, near a small table with 2 chairs, was something that made Harper stop breathing. The coffee machine. The same temperamental coffee machine from the office, the one that hissed like a dragon and only worked if you knew the secret ritual. It was there, decorated with a yellow bow, as if it were a guest of honor. "You brought the coffee machine," Harper said, her voice coming out strange. Trevor appeared from behind the tent. He was in a suit, because of course he was, but without a tie. The top button of his shirt was open. For Trevor, this was practically casual nudity. "It was important," he said. "It was where we talked for the first time, really talked. You kidnapped a coffee machine for sentimental reasons. Technically it belongs to the company, and I'm the CEO. That's abuse of corporate power. It's romanticism. It's both." Trevor smiled. That smile that still made Harper forget how to form sentences. "Come," he said, extending his hand. She went. The table was set with a precision that was very Trevor. Plates aligned to the millimeter. Silverware at perfect angles. Napkins folded in shapes that probably had names in French. And in the center, a small vase with a single yellow flower. Harper sat down. Trevor didn't sit. He stood beside the table, and that's when Harper noticed. He was nervous. Very nervous. His fingers went to the napkin and adjusted it. Then they went to the fork and moved it 2 millimeters to the left. Then they went to the flower vase and turned it slightly. "Trevor," she said. He didn't respond. He was busy aligning the flower petals that had fallen on the tablecloth. "Trevor?" He picked up a petal and placed it perfectly parallel to another. "You're aligning petals." They were crooked. Petals don't get crooked. They're petals. They fall where they want. These were specifically crooked. Harper stood up, took his hand. He froze. "Hey," she said softly. "It's me, the person who talks to herself and argues with machines. You don't need to be nervous with me." "I know. Then why are you nervous?" "Because this is important." "What is important?" Trevor took a deep breath, looked at her, and Harper saw something in his eyes that made everything stop. "I rehearsed this," he said. "I wrote a speech. It had statistics about long-term compatibility. It had references to studies about successful relationships. It even had a quote from a Greek philosopher that I thought was appropriate." "You made a speech with statistics for. Let me finish." Harper closed her mouth. "I rehearsed everything," Trevor continued. "Word by word. But now you're here, holding my hand, looking at me the way you look, and I forgot everything. Every word, every statistic, every Greek philosopher. Do you at least remember the philosopher's name? Aristotle. But I don't remember the quote. That's okay. I probably wouldn't understand it anyway." Trevor let out a short laugh. "So," he said, "no speech, no statistics, just this." He let go of her hand and knelt down. Harper stopped breathing. "Trevor, 6 months ago," he said, looking up at her, "you came into my life dropping papers and talking to yourself about impossible dreams. You were chaos in the form of a person, noise where I had built silence, color where everything was gray." Harper's eyes began to burn. "You made me laugh when I had forgotten how. You made me feel when I thought I couldn't anymore. You made me want more than numbers and control and empty perfection." He took something from his pocket. A small box. Small. Black. "I don't know how to make romantic speeches. I don't know how to be spontaneous. I still align things when I get nervous, and I'll probably do that for the rest of my life. But I know one thing with absolute certainty." He opened the box. The ring was simple, elegant, with a yellow stone in the center that shone like a small sun. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you. With the chaos, with the noise, with the conversations with coffee machines and elevators and trains, with everything." Harper couldn't speak. For the first time in her life, she literally couldn't speak. "Harper Lewis," Trevor said, "will you marry me?" The silence lasted an eternity. 1 second. 2. You chose a yellow stone, she finally said, her voice broken. It's your favorite color. I mentioned that once. Once. I pay attention. I know. The tears streamed down. I know you do. Is that a yes? Of course it's a yes, you silly man. She laughed and cried at the same time. It's the most obvious yes in the history of yeses. It's a yes I wanted to give since the day in the elevator. Maybe before. Maybe since the day you almost smiled looking at the monitors. Yes. 1,000 times yes. 1,000,000 times yes. Trevor stood up, put the ring on her finger, and then kissed her. It was a real kiss this time, not interrupted by phones or cameras or corporate conspiracies. Just the two of them, in the middle of a clearing decorated with fairy lights, next to a kidnapped coffee machine, with the most perfect ring in the world on her finger. And then, because the universe had a sense of humor, a train passed. Loud, deafening, perfectly ill-timed. The coffee machine hissed in solidarity. The petals Trevor had aligned flew everywhere. Harper started laughing against his lips. This, she said between laughs, is so us. Trevor smiled. That smile, that was only hers. I wouldn't have it any other way. They stayed there, embraced, while the train passed and the world made noise around them. Two unlikely people who had found each other in the middle of chaos and discovered that sometimes chaos is exactly where you need to be. Hey, Harper said when the silence returned. Hey, you're gonna have to teach me the coffee machine ritual, if she's gonna be part of the family now. Trevor laughed. Loud, real, the most beautiful sound Harper had ever heard. I love you, he said. I love you too. She looked at the ring on her finger. And I also love this ring, and this coffee machine, and this place, and I'll probably love even the annoying trains because now they're part of our story. Our story. Our story. She smiled at him. He smiled back. And somewhere in Pittsburgh, between steel bridges and old tracks, the CEO who never smiled and the assistant who talked to herself began the next chapter of their lives. Together. Forever. Or at least until the next train passed. The end. What did you think of the story of Trevor, a CEO who never smiled until he met his assistant, Harper, who talked to elevators, argued with trains, and turned his life into pure colorful chaos? Leave your opinion in the comments.
If this journey of resilience and turning pain into power resonated with your heart, please support Healing Stories. Subscribe. Help us build a sanctuary of strength by subscribing to the channel. Share the hope. Give this video a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this message of recovery and justice. Your support allows us to continue sharing powerful narratives of overcoming trauma and finding peace. Subscribe to Healing Stories and be part of the change.